Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday, October 22nd. Welcome to the Guts to Fail. Today's guest is Meaghan Dawson. She is a food blogger for Lifestyle Frisco and a blogger herself in her personal realm. And her blog is called BeautyfromBurntToast. She has an Instagram and a Facebook page. She is passionate about what she does. She's great at what she does. And she just recently, just recently wrote an article about Chibo Kitchens, which neither here nor there, but it's a concept my husband and I are working on. And we just got connected through Wendy, and I'm glad that we did. I think we clicked. We had like a hour-long phone conversation.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm so excited to have her today. I've been looking forward to this for a couple weeks now. And I'm excited to introduce y'all to her. If you have any comments or anything, just make sure, if you haven't allowed StreamYard to have permissions on your Facebook page, to tell me who's commenting so that we know who we're talking to. And without further ado, I am going to let Meaghan talk all about how she answered her calling and she pivoted to her passion and left the corporate world to start Beauty from Burnt Toast.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It is true that the first time we talked, I got off the phone and I was like, I just met like a soulmate, like a friend soulmate. I love her. I just love her. And then I think we had a second long conversation. So we've had a few, and you are inspiring. And I got off the phone really, really pumped and excited both times. Loved writing the article about what y'all are doing. And it's just a pleasure to know you. So there's that.
Pleasure to know you. Yes. Thank you.
Love my girl crush. Yes. Okay. So I've gushed enough. So gosh, the story of how I started Burnt Toast, so it's a really big mouthful. Sometimes when you start things, the name is really cute. And then you realize as it grows that, woo, that's a mouthful. So I just call it Burnt Toast, or every once in a while, I'll just call it BT just because I'm lazy. I don't like to say that many words. Mm-hmm. But yes, I actually, if you had asked me 5 years ago, probably 6, if this would be on my horizon, if this would be what I was doing right now, I would have laughed. No way in my realm of that life would I have thought that I would be doing my own thing, brave enough to put myself out there in any way. Mm-hmm. At that time, I was working for a company as a recruiter. I was completely like drink the Kool-Aid in the corporate world, 100%. I traveled all the time and I loved what I did. I mean, I was good at my job, which just tells you, there's a lesson in life that just because you're good at something doesn't mean it's what you're supposed to be doing, but we can get to that later.
Right.
I was really good at it. And I think the company it's a really good company at giving positive feedback. And I think at the time I just needed that personally. Mm-hmm. So I mean, talk about, I really did drink the Kool-Aid. I like wore the t-shirts, like basically got a tattoo. I don't know. I was all over it. And while I was successful there, it was coming at a great personal cost for my marriage, for my kids, for who I was, because I was almost worshiping that job as an idol because it was filling a bucket that was empty, which is a whole probably other conversation. But
yeah. We can talk about it. We have time.
Yeah. I was a young mom when I started, and I just needed someone to tell me, hey, you're good. You're good at what you do. Keep going. Mm-hmm. I needed that affirmation. And that company was good at it, which is a great thing. Right. But for me, it was like poison because I just kept needing more and more and more. Mm-hmm. So I kept giving more. And so finally, I mean, it kind of got to the point where the rubber hit the road, and it was either my family and my marriage or my job, because it wasn't working. Nobody was happy. I was making, and they weren't terrible choices, but they were choices that weren't right for my family and really weren't right for me.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of where I spent my time and what I put my energy into.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt at the time that I was irreplaceable for that company, that what I was doing was so good, that I was so gung-ho that I was irreplaceable for them. But really the truth is I was actually irreplaceable for my family and for
Ooh, that's
myself.
such a good point.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I have to write this down. I do wish I knew how to spell irreplaceable, but
don't
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show y'all.
Yeah, don't worry. And so, I mean, honestly, it was a really hard choice, but it was kind of like either you go or you lose everything. And so I left the job. It was right before school let out. My kids this was 4 years ago, so they were elementary school age. And it was right before school let out, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to be a mom now. I'm just going to be a mom. And it sounds silly to say, like, I left that job, and people leave jobs every day, right? They quit, they move careers, but I had made that job my whole identity, like everything. And so much so that when I left, somebody that I worked with, and I think she was well-meaning, said, what are you going to do? I mean, you're such a professional. Like, aren't you going to be bored? And I think that company, like everyone there, gave me a couple months and I would be crawling back. I really think they thought that. And they probably weren't wrong in a lot of ways to think that. So I spent that summer just being a mom, nothing wrong with it. I had to realign myself with who I was. I spent an awful lot of time praying, asking for forgiveness, trying to work through the guilt of missing time with my kids, with my family.
Oh, you're hitting on such great things. Mom guilt. That is so real. That's real. That is real.
Yeah. And I just spent that summer kind of getting my act together, I guess you could say. I mean, it was a very lonely summer. I lost all my friends because I left that job. And as much as you say you're going to be forever friends, if that's the only thing that's holding you together, you're not. And so I had to figure out who I was. And this sounds so kind of out there and, spiritual, which for me it is, but I sometimes tell this story and I laugh because I think, God doesn't really care about food blogs, but whatever, we'll get to that.
He cares about everything.
I know. I was sitting outside on my patio and the kids had just gone back to school. So I really felt like, well, shoot, what do I do? I hate to clean. I'm not a PTA. Like all the things that I could be filling my time with. I was like, yeah, that sucks. I'm not doing that. And I think for the first time in my life, I thought, well, what am I supposed to be doing? Let's not think about what I'm going to put out there that I should be doing. Let me just listen and figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. And
so good.
This idea, it like fell into my head. I call it God. But I think people elsewhere would call it the universe, whatever, said you should start a food blog. That's what you should do. And I was terrified. I knew nothing about the world.
Were you a writer before?
No.
Did you know your butt from apple butter when it came to blogging?
I knew. I didn't even this is the best part. I didn't even really follow blogs. So it's not like I really don't know where this came from. I was a terrible photographer. My husband was always the one taking the pictures because my thumb would be in it. I was never a writer. I have always been a cook. So, but I'm not a chef and I'm not classically trained. I come from a family of foodies. I mean, when we get together, it's like, where are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? Let's cook, whatever. My brother is a chef, is probably the best cook I've ever, had the pleasure of eating. And unfortunately, he doesn't like any of the other part of it. I should just take pictures of his stuff because he's very creative and good at that. But it was so out there for me to do this. And I was so terrified.
So let me ask you this. If it was so far out of the realm and you were like, Where did this come from? You knew that you loved food. You knew that you were a cook. You knew you were passionate about that. You knew that was where your heart, was. And clearly my heart is in food as well. So how do you obey that? Was it easier for you to obey that, what you listened to, because you had already left the other thing behind? Would it talk to the girls, talk to the ladies right now? And I call this monkey bars. Okay. It's when you're holding on to the monkey bar and you're like, oh, I'm going to reach that one. Now you're holding on to both, but you won't let go of this one. You won't monkey bar on over and just go all in on the next bar. Talk to that person right now on leaving that behind, letting go of that, and then listening not to what I want to put out there, but what am I supposed to be doing? I think there's a very big difference in that. Talk about that.
That's really interesting. The question, would I have listened if I was still hanging on to the other monkey bar? I will say no. I would not have listened. I would have been too distracted by the noise of this.
You're great. Good job. Only $12,000 more.
That's really hard to walk away from, especially when you're about to go do your own thing, where, let's face it, for the first however long you do it, there's usually crickets, right? So that's really hard to walk away from. My old boss at that old job, I once listened to him give a speech, and I did not consciously do this because of this speech, but looking back on it, I think it kind of is the right mindset. He said, sometimes you have to burn the bridges.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to burn the bridges. And I think if I had kept a lifeline, if I had kept that connection with the company, I never would have been brave enough to do it. Now, keep in mind, bravery doesn't mean I was like, yes, this is going to work. Bravery means that I was doing it and I was like terrified the whole time. And
courage is the ability to go ahead and do something you're afraid of, even if you risk looking stupid or doing it bad.
Yes. And let's face it. I mean, when I look back at what I first did, it looked bad. I mean, truthfully, go back and look through my old posts.
Probably doesn't. Probably only looks bad to you. Everyone does the same thing. But the point is that when I search for inspirational things on Pinterest and I talk, motivational, and it says 99% of success is just starting. The reason why that's true is because it's so scary to just freaking start.
Yeah.
If you can get over that, when you're everybody's pushed a car in their life, right? But when you push
it, but okay.
My first car was a beetle bug and it broke down all the time. So yes. So when you push the car and you're going over this bump and you have to rock it and get it over, once you get it over, then it just starts taking off and you got to chase the car and get in it and push the brakes and whatever. That's the way I liken starting to. The rest of it, you'll figure it out. Once you start, you're all in.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I think for me, starting, ignorance was almost bliss, that I didn't know anything. Now, looking back, I am in, bloggers, Facebook groups, all these things, and everyone struggles so hard. They want to launch with a certain amount of posts so they look, real
legit,
and they want to have a plan for monetizing. They want to have all these things. I literally none of it. None. I mean, I took a picture of toast. I mean, I don't lie. It's like burnt toast. I took a picture of when I started. But I think that was bliss for me, that I wasn't so tied in, because if I had gotten caught up in all those details, I'm afraid it would have scared me too much.
Yeah. If you did, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. So when you don't know anything, you don't know what you don't know. And you're like, this is going to be great. How hard can it be?
Yeah, right. It's so easy. And, because I left the corporate world, I feel like my biggest fear was looking like an amateur to the people that I left at that company, which is, looking back on it, I think it's funny. Like, I don't care at all. But they used to, and this is typical, I think, in a lot of companies, they would almost mock people that would leave, like they're never going to make it, you know. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to be like, oh, look, she's starting a food blog, what a loser, you know, like that type of thing. And I had to work past that fear of, they're going to think I'm a failure when I do this, I'm going to look like a failure. And so that was what I thought would be my audience. It's funny, they're not at all. It's really funny how that goes. But I had that kind of fire behind me that I wanted to at least look semi-legitimate, but I'm lucky that I didn't know exactly what legitimate looked like, because then I would have freaked out. And so I didn't start with, you know, lots of things lined up. I don't think I got Instagram till I was like a month in, because I didn't think it was important. I think I, you know, invited all my friends on Facebook, and it was like my mom and my aunt that joined me at first, you know, and like 2 friends.
Yes.
And you know, the important lesson I learned about that is that it's shocking the people that come along the journey with you, because you expect some of your besties to show up, and sometimes they don't. And it's not because they don't love you, they don't support you. There could be a lot of different reasons. But if you're brave enough to jump over to that other monkey bar, you'll be really surprised at the people in your life that jump with you. And usually it's because they want to see you land safely first. They're ready to do it. They want to do it. You have no idea what's going on in their life, but you're like, wow, that person that was on my son's soccer team when he was 5 is really following me. I wonder what's up with that. When meanwhile, your neighbor who you've known forever hasn't even read something you've written. So it's funny.
Oh gosh, that is so true. And when you said, oh gosh, you said so much. I'm going to go back to something really quick. Oh gosh, there's so much to go back to. But yes, the people who follow you it's shocking. I mean, I literally have Instagram friends I've never met, but they're like ride or die. Yes. And I'm like, I love you. I'm going to give you a hug someday. I don't know when I'm going to be in whatever Kansas, but I'm going to give you a hug. But you, last night at bingo night, there was a hostess that was kind of helping me, and I had said, hey, do you have a table right now? Is there any way you could help me? And the other guy goes, oh yeah, she's just a hostess. She can help you. I looked at her. I go, hostesses are important. And if you have something important to do, you just let me know. You're important. Because he said, oh, she's just a hostess. And then what made me think of that is you said, I'm just going to stay home and be a mom. I'm just gonna. Well, being a mom, when I quit teaching and then started Brooke Euland's Bungalow, which is also a mouthful, I thought, I'm just going to be a mom and I can just do this so well, and all the laundry's going to be done. I'm going to look great. My kids will not look like homeless people anymore. My house will be clean. Dinner will be planned. I will make grocery lists for the first time in my life. And, you know, all of these things. But just being a mom, it is so, you wonder how you ever had a job. You're like, how did I ever do anything else? And then
I have no idea. I think it's impossible, the amount of things that moms juggle. Impossible. My husband would fall down on the ground under the weight of it, and he is a high functioning adult man. All these things, but he couldn't. He's like, what? When do they have to be at school? What?
They have to bring a what?
Yeah. No idea. So I know. I think that, you know, just being a mom is enough. And I don't think anybody should ever. And I know, because when I worked in that corporate world, there was an awful lot of looking down at just moms. That's why that coworker said to me, you're such a professional. What are you going to do? Aren't you going to be bored? You know, the truth is no. But I think most women also have a drive to do something else.
Balancing the ambitions of being a great mom and having ambition to make your mark on the world.
Yes.
in addition to, I mean, our kids are our contribution to the world and our legacy, but we also have other things that we want to strive to be so that our kids see, you know, I get it. I think everyone that's listening, that's in Bungalow University, they're the same. It's a segment of my audience of people that want to do, they're me. You are like saying everything that is exactly what I've thought and done and felt and overcome. But I want to tell everybody you have conquered all of that in words. In just, we're only 21 minutes in. When you said being brave and you were afraid of being bored, or they said, aren't you going to be bored? Or maybe you said you were going to be bored. Being brave and letting go of that, the best way to move forward is to burn the bridge behind you. That is something that I say. So when you said that, I was like, brave versus boredom. Brave to leave and just be home and listen for a little bit. That is crazy. So when God told you Beauty from Burnt Toast or to start a blog, and you said for a minute you didn't know what you were doing, tell me about the life combination lock. Because a lot of times we are put through scenarios in our life and journeys and jobs and situations that later on we're like, that's why I needed to know that. What from your past has helped you be successful right now in what you're doing?
Oh, that's a good question. Whew. You know, I think for me, so you have to understand a little bit about burnt toast first. So when I started it, the idea behind the name is that, you know, we all burn toast. So it's kind of like a metaphor, but also real. So sometimes I make recipes and they stink. So, you know, and that's just it. You got to make beauty from it, right?
Yeah.
But also, you know, metaphorically, I had burnt toast in my life and I was trying to make something of it. You know, beauty from ashes. That
scrape it off. Cover it up.
Cover it up, put some peanut butter, whatever you gotta do. So that's where the name came from. And when I started it, I thought, oh, I'll write about the food, right? Because that's what most food blogs are. Okay, is like you go and there's 6 pictures of the recipe in progress. And because I didn't have a plan, which I'm not advocating changing everything and not having a plan. I'm just saying I didn't have one. In my mind, I think that the plan I had was, oh, I'll just write about the food. Well, that's not really what happened. And I don't know if this is good or bad or neutral, but what I typically do is I tell a story about my life or about the kids, and there's always a lesson. And then I talk about the recipes. So, and that just kind of evolved. And I'm very real. For right, wrong, or indifferent, I will tell you the mess. I will tell you, you know, problems with my kids. As they're getting older, I'm trying to kind of protect them a little bit. So not as much of that. It's kind of a dicey area, but I'll be really real. And so I think, you know, my past allowed me to kind of shake off all those needing to be, that leaving that company. I was trying to figure out who I am, just shaking off all of that, allowing me to be really real. And what people started coming to me for was, yes, the food, but they also liked that I'll just tell it like it is. I'll speak to things that maybe people are afraid to speak to. And I think I have always had a unique understanding of people, of what makes people hurt. I think we talked about this in our phone call. I'm kind of an empath, so I can feel your pain. And I have this kind of thing in my heart for just the human condition. I mean, our life is crazy. And so telling those stories came so easily to me. But I almost think it's because it was such a painful journey to get there. And I was, as Beauty from Burnt Toast grow, I was shedding all of that stuff and starting to get bolder with my writing, starting to be a little more brave each step of the way.
Vulnerable.
Yes, yes. And there are times when I write something and I'll put it out there. I have a section on Beauty from Burnt Toast. It's called Just Words, and it's just things that there's no recipe attached. And usually those are the ones that it's like 2 in the morning and I can't sleep and I go out and I'll free write for 45 minutes and that's that post. Like it had to come out. They're some of my most read pieces.
Yep. So let me ask. So okay, backing up. You said that you didn't have a plan, and I think that is actually, the more you plan out, the more things don't go to plan. But also, I always say you need to produce before you consume. And so if I was in the past creating a workshop kit or something, my kits, if they came from an idea from Pinterest, then they looked like somebody else's thing.
Yeah.
If I just came out here, like I call it the Apollo 13 movie. Remember when they dump all the crap on the table and said, they need to put this square peg in this round hole and this is what they're working with.
Yeah.
That right there, I look in my studio and I throw a bunch of crap on my craft table. I'm like, all right, I got to make something cute out of this. Let's figure this out. So I like that your process doesn't look like all the rest because you produced before you consumed. Yes. And that's what made you unique. And people don't buy products and services. They buy stories and relationships. And you are building a relationship, and the vulnerability that you have is by being authentically you. Because let's face it, now that you know, there are bazillions of food bloggers out there. Yes. How do you stand out in the marketplace? How do you move a follower to a friend in that situation? If I'm just Googling what to make for dinner tonight, I'm not going to build a relationship with the blogger who wrote about that best, beef stroganoff, whatever. But if I hear you and I'm reading through, I'm like, and I laugh, I'm going to save that and I'm going to read that later. So I really love that you produced before you consumed and that you're authentic, you're getting more vulnerable. And everyone that's listening to this who has taken my class before knows that you have to have, and I think I told you the Jenna Kutcher 5. Did I talk to you about that? Okay, we'll talk about that later. But 2 of them have to be vulnerable, and you are doing, you're doing everything right, but you came to it through your instinct and through listening to God. Yeah. And that's how you're successful. There's a reason you're being led in that direction. It's because we were blessed with our wisdom that comes from our stories that we're supposed to share with others because we're human and we want to learn from each other. So
yes. And I really believe, and I'm going to speak right to your followers right now. Mm-hmm. Everybody on the face of this planet was given a gift, multiple gifts, every single one of us. Mm-hmm. They do not all look alike, and they shouldn't look alike at all. It takes a heck of a lot of faith to be able to step out and say, I'm going to follow this gift. When I did it, I don't think I knew that this was my gift. I really don't. I think I was just like, well, let's throw some spaghetti against the wall and see if it sticks. There's a food pun for you.
Yes, it's a good one.
But I think, I think sometimes in business and when we kind of venture out on our own, we put the cart before the horse, where we try and become a life coach to teach people how to be successful before we've actually been successful. Or we try and tell everybody where they should go eat before we figure out we have earned the trust of people of why should I trust you, right? So I think that sometimes it's just saying, hey, my gift is writing, or my gift is crafting, or my gift is inspiring, or my gift is motivation. And kind of, it's not blind, but almost going, okay, let's see what happens when I do this. Let's see what happens when I do this. And when I started, because I didn't have a plan, I also didn't have an agenda. I didn't expect that anything would come of it. I knew I wanted something to come of it, but I didn't say, oh, I want to do this, or I want to make X amount of dollars, or I want to do this. I just went, let's do this, let's try. And my community, and I'd say Instagram's probably they're, like you said, I have people that I've never met that I'm friends with that I would go to bat for.
Yes.
It grew when I stopped worrying about how many followers do I have and started worrying about, I just want to talk to this person. Let me connect with this person.
Yes.
And how to create a community, because once people know that you're going to show up for them, whether they have 8,000 followers or 200 followers or 15, if you are going to show up for them, they're going to show up for you.
Yes.
And so
yes. Do you think that taking away your agenda or realizing that you didn't have one also took away the if I fail aspect, because you weren't trying to succeed, you were just going to try something.
Yeah.
And you knew that eventually you wanted to grow to something, but and I know that we're over time here, but I have one of my Post-it note was about our conversation and the blog post that you wrote, which I will link in the thing, in the post later, about being afraid to monetize.
Yep.
And ask people for money. Do you think because you were so successful in your corporate world that if you tried to monetize something you were doing in your personal life and you didn't reach the monetary success that you did over here, that those mean girls would be like, was that part of it? Because we didn't even talk about that.
You know, I don't know. I think it all came down to a fear of failing, of looking. I didn't want to look like I needed it, or I really don't know. But I had this fear. I told you, my husband said, I think you're allergic to making money. Like, I think you're allergic to it because, you've done this long enough. You've not been asking for things, from the beginning. People trust you. If you believe in something, share it, do it, whatever you've got to do. I think it was fear. It was absolutely fear of being seen a certain way, whatever that way is. Unfortunately, I don't think men suffer through that fear. I think they just ask, they don't care. But I think that
testosterone, it's what it's called.
Yeah. I mean, my husband's like, I'd ask every day.
I'd ask every day. Hey, you want to give me some money? Here's my link.
Yeah, I started asking before you even started. I feel like it was just fear, flat out fear of being seen as needy or pushy, or having too big of an ego, because then you're afraid people are going to be like, oh, I would never spend that much. Who does she think she is? That type of thing. I don't know. And that's still a process because I'm still working through it.
Yep. Yeah. I think we all are. But at the end of the day, when you build your followers and you make them into friends, it is rude. I'm not saying you're rude. I think I'm using the word rude because I want everyone out there to hear this. And I feel like I was being rude because my friends want to support me.
Yeah.
They're like, how, you give so much. How can I give back? So you have to have a way for them to rally around you and support you. I mean, all these little Main Street businesses, the thing that they have most is the humans and their history on these little old buildings. And even all small businesses have the humans and the history. Where did Beauty from Burnt Toast come from? Sitting on your back porch, listening to God. I wasn't even a blogger. These stories matter, and they inspire other people to pivot to their passion, to answer their calling, to recognize the strengths. And I read a book called Strengths Finder. And and I know I'm just going to say this really quick, and then I want you to tell us how to get a hold of you and follow you and all of that after this. Okay. Rudy Rudinger, or something. The movie Rudy with Notre Dame. So he is the title character in the very beginning of this book, Strengths Finder, which is like you find what your strengths are. Yeah. It's like
it's basically
a reference. Yeah. But it talked about how if he had spent the amount of energy he did trying to play 2 plays his senior year at Notre Dame, if he had spent all that energy working on what he was really good at versus trying to fix a deficit that he wasn't even born with, where he would be, how much further. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's not inspirational, and we can't still want to dig up dinosaur bones and find a T-Rex. You know, we can still do that. But when you focus on your strengths that God gave you, wow, you know, just wow. So tell us how we can support you and find you and what you're working on right now.
I'm always working on like 8,000 things like you. So I do have, my own personal food blog. I share a new recipe about every other week. Like, as I told you, right now, my kitchen is under construction, so there's no cooking going on. So
wow.
Not right now, but, and on my Instagram page and on my Facebook page, I really just like to interact with people. So if you comment, I'm going to comment back. I get energy off of that. I love when people share my pictures of the recipes that they've made. I love resharing things that inspire me. I really use those as a community, especially right now. Everyone's still kind of COVID, not sure. It's just a way to connect. So you can always find me there. Drop me a DM if you have questions. I'm really accessible. I mean, I hope that even if I have millions of followers, I'm still that accessible.
Yes.
If that ever happens.
Yes. So do you focus on local food? Do you ever go to restaurants and find things and then talk about, wow, is that something that you do?
Yeah. So the other part of my job is, obviously, I'm the senior food and restaurant writer for Lifestyle Frisco. So I write lots of stories about local restaurants. I am passionate about local. So you won't find too much like chain stuff. No offense to chains. They're great, but I'm just really passionate about supporting local restaurants. On my own personal platform, I do that as well. And speaking to, that's one of the differences of the way that I've done things is on Beauty from Burnt Toast, my actual blog. I have a whole section that is where to eat Frisco. So if you want to know where to go, it is all just my favorites. I'm not paid. I don't go in and expect free meals. I go in I just want, if I like it, I want you to go there. So if you see something on my Instagram or my Facebook that I've been somewhere, that is just legitimately me saying, hey, this is really good. These are good people. Support these people. So I do that as well. And I recently, and we probably don't have time to talk about this, but I recently just launched something called Frisco Sunday Suppers, which is a community table experience. I had one in October, and the next one's coming up November 8th. That also has a Facebook group, which you can ask. And
there's a wait list for that too.
Yes. And so it's really anybody's invited, whoever wants to come. It's not just my friends. The first one, there were people that I knew, people that I didn't. It's really just a way for the community to connect, because we're all kind of broken apart and shattered by all sorts of different things, politics, COVID, all this. And I make a really simple meal. I plop it down on the table, and you get to know people that you wouldn't otherwise know. It's usually outside of your bubble, and it sounds awkward, but it's actually really fun. So I just launched that as well. So there's there's always something going on.
I love that. You are an inspiration, and I love that you listened. I love that you listened and you were brave enough to step out and do this, because it's meaningful, it's necessary, and there's nothing that makes me happier than someone being authentically themselves, living their best life, and finding a way to balance being a great mom and having amazing ambition at the same time. So thank you so much for being here. We love you. I will, everyone, I'm going to put all the links that I try to make as many notes as possible. I'm going to put all of Meaghan's links in the post. I appreciate y'all watching. If you watch on the replay, please do use #replay and let us know where you're watching from. Bye, Meaghan. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye.